Hi, welcome. This is Rick Biella. I'm the artistic director for the San Antonio Chamber Choir, and so proud to have Jake Runstead and Todd Boss with us, composer and poet and lyricist for many works together. Not the least is this profound setting of cello songs. This is a new work to me. So I found this to just be breathtaking on so many levels and so much fun too. Uh, Todd, we'll start with the last movement, actually, if you would. The spring movement I found to be really unbelievable. I've got a lot of questions about jazz that I want to ask you, Jake. But first of all, I think the poetry sort of sets in motion this playful movement.
Yeah, there's four movements here, all moving through the seasons, and it ends in spring. And that movement differs from the other ones because it's sort of a visual trick, much more so than a formal poetic one. Basically, it's just two lines of poetry, and it's describing a spring rain. And it just runs like this. Each wet splat of rain, we're talking about rain, each wet splat slaps what dirt keeps trapped, like each plucked note knocks at hearts locked shut. And what I
Okay,
did,
say that again twice as fast.
yeah,
Each West West slaps the dirt keeps traveling. Each white note knocks the heart block shot. Yeah.
What do you think I've been doing the last 2 weeks? Just saying that every day.
It's a tongue twister, that's for
It's so fun because it goes against everything Jake taught me about how to write for choir.
That's
And it's really designed to mimic the sound of rain on a dry, surface, this sort of splatting that happens. But I'll read it again. Each wet splat slaps what dirt keeps trapped, like each plucked note knocks at hearts locked shut. It's really about how music knocks at our hearts.
Yeah.
And basically on the page, what I did with those two lines is I put them at the bottom, and above it I stacked the words in sort of random order, and made them look like rain falling down on them. And I gave that to him as a cue, as a visual cue to kind of have fun and make something out of that. And it was really a bigger challenge on the page from my imagination than anything else. And I fully expected him to say, "What the hell is this?"
I was just wondering how many gin and tonics you had that day.
That's one of the beautiful things about collaboration, right? Is sometimes I have no idea what I'm going to get from Todd, which is scary, but mostly thrilling. But getting something like this and how playful and how fun it is, and then it allows me to just allow my creativity to go, with no limits. And I knew with something like this that's so fun in the mouth that it necessitated playful, fun music. And you'd mentioned jazz, and I have a strong jazz background. I'm a saxophone player, really. That's my main instrument. And I played throughout middle school, high school, and college, and did a lot of jazz. And so I knew this felt very bebop to me. Each wet spot stops, the dirt keeps trapped, like each buck note knocks the heart lock shot. And that would have this kind of ba da 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 kind of chromatic-y falling feel to it. And also when I presented the idea to Todd about the piece, we were thinking a lot in what makes it, the piece would be with cello, and we didn't quite know where that would go. But okay, the cello has four strings. What else is fours? Okay, four seasons. And so I, thought about maybe each movement would feature a different string on the cello, and then I had the idea of a different playing technique. So every movement uses a different playing technique of the cello. So this last movement with the plops of raindrops, we had to have pizzicato where you pluck the string. So there's a lot of that going on in this movement, and then other devices in the other movements.
Yeah, your jazz chops really show off in this work, and I'm wondering if you could demonstrate for us. I was pretty taken with the Ataka nature of the work. The four movements are con, continuous and contiguous as well, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
their morphing from one movement to the end to the next. So I wonder if the audience could just hear a little bit of that transforming
Right, into winter. Yeah,
into
so
winter.
we've got the second movement is autumn, and which is, Todd was looking at cellos, and the pattern on the back of the cello, on the wood, the grain, the way it's called flames.
Yeah,
Um, and so he wrote this second movement about those flames, like flames on its back where the wood grain flares. A cello matches its player's inner torches, and it's just this fiery. So it's got a lot of this spiccato, which is digga 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 in the cello. And the movement ends with a so we have a G, this G up here, and then moving into the next movement, we've got this kind of C minor, and then the cello. So it's this glissando, and this whole movement, Winter, is based on a poem by another poet, Doreen Lau, and I have this letterpress in my home. There's an artist in California, Jim Kokas, he takes contemporary poems and creates artwork on letterpress. So it's got the poem written, and he gets the poet to sign it, and then creates some sort of art related to the poem. So the one I have is a kind of a green cello overlaid with a tree, so it looks like cello's part of the tree, and the bow is coming across. And the poem really is about when a dead tree falls in a forest. It leans onto a living tree, and when the wind blows, it kind of bows and makes its dead music. It's a really beautiful poem that didn't quite work for a musical setting. It's beautiful on its own. So I asked Todd to adapt it, and then that became the basis for this movement and kind of the piece in general. And so this movement, it uses that glissando technique as that falling gesture, and the whole piece utilizes thirds. And so, like in Winter, we've got. All of these falling gestures just descends down and down and down, and most of the time that's happening in thirds, and a lot of kind of like that throughout the piece, and then as we move to spring, it actually inverts, and then we have the rising of those third gestures that happen. So that was one device I found early on to utilize in the piece to help me create meaning and create content.
Well, and you just briefly went through it, but that gesture of the major sixth up is certainly something that we feel all the way through the work, even in the in the depth of Winter. We feel that as well. Yeah, very, very powerful. I find the entire work to be again a transformative experience for myself. It's one that I have studied now a great deal, and looking so forward to rehearsing as well.